There's this global push now to deregulate these new types of GMOs, which is the gene editing kind. They don't like to call them GMOs, I've noticed. They
Yeah.
like to call, they're redefining definitions. Do you think that's strategic, that rebranding?
Absolutely, without a doubt. GM, genetic modification, genetic engineering, in the agricultural and food context, they've become dirty words. And somebody, I think he was from Monsanto many years ago, back in the 90s, actually said if you put a genetically modified label on a food, it's equivalent to putting a skull and crossbones on it. So, yes, the whole concept of genetically engineering our food, I think people have what I would call a gut reaction, and that is a very apt pun. They instinctively, I think, know that there is nothing wrong with our food, nothing wrong with our crops, nothing wrong with our animals, that it requires genetic modification to fix. And they don't understand why it's being done. We're told that, it's done to increase productivity, to reduce the use of pesticides, to help us deal with climate change. There is no evidence that any GMO can help with any of these problems, and plenty of evidence that they've actually exacerbated our food and farming problems. So, yes, I do see a global push, and I do see this redefining of terms. It's been particularly bad, I think, here in the UK, where they actually call these new gene-edited GMOs precision-bred organisms. Now, we fought against that for several months, and there was even a scientist's statement against the use of that term because the scientists felt that it was being very misleading and making out that these techniques were a lot more precise, predictable, and safe than they really are. But anyway, the British government, which doesn't listen to anybody on these issues at all, apart from the people that they want to listen to, they just ignored us and went ahead with this term precision bred agriculture, precision bred organisms, and that has now gone into law. And I think actually, looking at it from the long-term point of view, they're going to end up with egg on their face because it's increasingly obvious that these techniques are not precise, they are not predictable, they cannot be assumed to be safe. So this is a misnomer. And yes, it's very deliberate leaving behind of the old dirty word of genetic engineering and genetic modification.